Okay. I'm just gonna start with, regular convo and then we get to
Ay hay. What?
We're about to record our fourth episode?
Fifth.
Fifth episode.
Oh my gosh, is it fifth? I think I've been saying fourth.
Our last one could be like 3 episodes.
Oh my gosh. So I think we've started, I don't know, I think all of us have been getting a few questions of people are discovering it and they're like, oh, you guys have a podcast and how did you start? Like, what made you do it? And I thought about it and I was like, oh, I guess we didn't really have a little conversation around it. I know we did some intros through our page,
Yeah.
but maybe it's good for our listeners or viewers to get a little bit more insight on what started all of this, which really came out of us three being on, we all slid into each other's DMs perhaps. Because we used to talk on Instagram.
But it's been years. Like it was a many year DM exchange.
Yeah. And not that we didn't know each other, for some reason we communicated via Instagram instead of actually just having a text group
like we do now. So weird.
Like normal people do.
You know why? Because we would share stuff.
Yes.
We'd be assholes and judge people. I'd be like, did you see this?
Yeah.
Did you see that? That's why.
Yeah. So, Marion, do you want to talk a little bit about how we started? I mean, we've been talking about doing this podcast for probably 3 years.
Time.
Yeah.
I don't know, Maya. I feel like you've been having like the bigger push. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought that just the conversations we had were just so much fun that I feel like it, people need to know what we talk about. And I feel like all of us have that common ground of being either first generation immigrants or second generation immigrants, but we're also very different in our personalities, but somehow we were able to have this cohesive and this beautiful friendship. And I feel like I think our conversations always had some sort of a purpose too. We kind of were there supporting each other. And that's the kind of network and that's the kind of community I would love to see among us Bangladeshis that are living abroad. That's something that I think also kind of being in our like middle ages, it's hard to make friendships as well. I mean, I know it's
how dare you? How dare you call us middle aged? We are young and hip. I bet people don't even use that term. Who the hell says we're hip?
Today was like, I'm 45.
Oh gosh. That's awful too.
I'm 45. Anyway, middle age.
Yeah, I think so fostering those friendships, I think, are really important. Building that community, I think, is really important. Having each other to lean on. For example, the fact that last night I had like 2 hours worth of sleep, and I was feeling really awful this morning, and I texted Marion and I was like venting to her, this is what's happening. Just having that space, I feel like, is something that should be shared.
Yeah.
And maybe hopefully one day this community can grow and we could all kind of lean on each other.
Or at least have it set an example of like, this can happen. I feel like maybe it's more common among us, our age and even younger, but I don't know how much this happens for those that are older than us. I think there's still a bit of like a facade and don't really tell what's actually happening in your life. You have to be super like perfect and put together.
Family der moddhe I've seen, they do have that connection. Bonder moddhe, right? Bonder moddhe. But I have a friend that I actually recently we connected. She's from Long Beach. We connected over this iftar event in LA, and it's been so difficult being somebody who works and then has a family, or even if it's her and her husband. building new friendships and networks, it's really difficult. Even when you go to networking events and things like that. I mean, I'm really shy. I'm not a talker. But
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's hard to make friends like when I mean, I guess if you're I don't know, being married and making friends is hard. Like it's like dating as couples, which is
Oh
hard
yeah.
and weird. Being now not married and single, it's like now now who are my friends? Because your friends almost split sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like how do you make friends with now everybody I know are either coupled up, married, like your kids are your only kind of common ground. I don't know. It's
Well,
it's
I
hard
think
in college.
part of it is everyone's busy, right? Especially, you know, in this world where both, if you are even married, both working parents, we barely even have time for each other as like spouses, or even for our kids. It's running them to
Mm,
activities and X, Y, and Z. And so you have to be very thoughtful of who you actually become friends with, because they have to understand that you're going to disappear for a long period of time and
Yeah.
then reappear when you have the, the time to commit. And you have to have people in your lives that understand that and not giving this like negative energy because you don't have time for them. And so as you get older, your circle becomes smaller and smaller because
smaller.
very few people respect that and are okay, especially I think as women, to not think about it in a different way, or like, oh my gosh, she probably doesn't like me anymore. That's why,
Overthinking.
like, yeah, she didn't respond to my text immediately, because the other part of it is there's this like instant gratification now,
Yeah.
because everything is like you're expected to be holding your phone the whole time. You're expected to text right away, and
Yeah.
so it's just hard. So I think that's what's really, nice about even this friendship that we have. None of us live in the same city. We barely see each other in
Yeah.
person, right? But somehow we're still connected thanks to technology, where we do feel like even if we did see each other, it feels like no time has passed.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
also think that like making like the things that we talk about, we might not definitely not experts in anything
Yeah.
specific to what we talk about. It's all opinions. I feel like my opinions or my experiences have changed living in Minnesota for so long, like really being disconnected and isolated from a
Yeah.
common community. That's changed. So I'm sure like things are evolving in bigger cities and things that I probably have no insight into sometimes, or you see from like social media, but not always. So I feel like that's also important, is to like just kind of open it up and be like,
Yeah.
we have a lot of things in common, but where we live, how we live, all of those nuanced, but who we are as like Bangladeshi-American is something that I don't think these topics for us exist in the social sphere.
Yeah. And we make
Yeah.
mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes. This is not
Oh yeah.
a yeah, we're gotta
We're
forgive
not,
and forget, huh?
yeah, none of us are experts. I think it's more we're making observations and talking about it rather than saying what's right and what's wrong, or,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
putting our opinion on anyone. I think it's just talking about fun stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that I actually have some non-Bengali friends, like my white friends, my black friends, my like a lot of friends just watching, and they're like, I love it because we have to have insight into your culture and your background that I guess I would have never brought out in a normal setting with them. So it's
Yeah.
actually cool to see that you don't have to be Bengali, but people still watch and find it entertaining.
Yeah, I think that's what brings people together in general, right? Where you find commonalities, even if you're not from the same culture. Like I follow a lot of random, you know, podcasts or videos where it's like Asian people talking about their nuances,
Yeah,
like Black people, Jewish. It's just very interesting that at the end of the day, all of us have so much in common, and we all really laugh about the same things.
yes. Everyone
We're all
laughs about
experiencing,
accents. Everyone
yeah,
laughs about what their mothers did and old
exactly.
generation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why, I mean, for everyone watching, that's really why we got together and we're like, you know what, we really need to do this. We don't see really one brown women
Right.
in the scene, the podcast scene, and then Bangladeshi women even less. So this is just the beginning, as Maya says, of many other folks trying to do the same thing. But I think this is just like the beginning of us trying to talk about very specific things that we all observe within our culture, and then also expanding to outside of our culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting, our community closer together.
And I don't think there's a lot of content about us in English or Bangla or a mix. I feel like there's
Yeah.
a ton that's all in Bangla, and sometimes it's Bangla I don't even understand.
Yeah.
Or if there's a video and everything's written in Bangla, you have to hit translate, or I can read it, but I have to read it like 4 times to understand it. So that also doesn't exist. So maybe there's something there too.
Yeah.